死んでも話すわけにはいかねえ。それが
おのれ。
逃げやがった。メリオダス様ですよね。
よう、エリザベスに豚野郎。さっきのやつらは？
どうもエリザベスちゃんとお前のガラクタを狙ってるみてえだったぜ。そこのクソ医者がグルになってばっくれやがったか。待って、メリオダス様の傷はまだ癒えていないのよ。
なんか治ってる。
騎士様、少年を殺すことは失敗しましたが、言われた通りに毒は飲ませました。約束通り娘を返してください。
娘はお前の元に返してやろう。あの世に行くお前の元へ。騎士が子供一人に毒殺を命じたなど、無駄な悪評を立てられるのは
ダナ先生、しっかり。
すまんかった。娘を助けたいばかりに私は挙句に娘を救うこともできず。
私のせいですね。私たちがこの町に来なければ。そもそも私が7つの大罪。
泣きたい気持ちぐらいはわかるさ。でもお前が王国と涙の一つや二つで折れちまう程度のもんなのか。俺はエリザベスと7つの大罪を探し聖騎士を食い止めると決めた。たとえお前が死んでも俺はお前との約束を果たす。
メリオダス様。
そんじゃぼちぼちバステに向かうか。
メリオダス様、メリオダス様、私も王国と人々を守るために戦い続けます。
今すぐ殺すなよ。
すみません。
The Seven Deadly Sins is the latest attempt by a developer to do an anime tie-in game. This one is obviously based on the Seven Deadly Sins anime, which is a popular enough one, and it's been doing the rounds for a while, and I'm surprised that we actually haven't seen more video games based on it, because like so many other animes, it is kind of perfect for the video game format. Particularly, this one tries to be a Dynasty Warriors style game, and the way that the anime is structured would make it perfect for that. There's a lot of different characters, they all have different fighting styles, and as we've seen Koei do themselves with games like Pirates, One Piece, Pirate Warriors, and Gundam, Dynasty Warriors Gundam, and the recent Arslan and Berserk Warriors tie-ins, the Warriors franchise certainly works in the favour of these anime games. Unfortunately for this one, perhaps because it wasn't developed by Koei, it isn't anywhere near as good as those other Warriors games, and it doesn't quite capture the feel of a Warriors game in it. And that just goes to show, I guess, the strength of Koei's franchise, and perhaps the reason we haven't seen too many other developers actually try to do Warriors games. There aren't that many attempts to do what Koei Tecmo does by other developers. There's obviously the Capcom's Sengoku Basara series, and there has been one or two attempts by other developers. There was a Bleach game on the PlayStation 3 a fair while back, which Nipponichi published, and it was a Warriors style game as well. But despite those kind of one-off examples or attempts to do a Warriors style experience, it's obviously a very difficult one for developers to grapple with, because they don't try and do it. And when they do, as in this case, it's not a particularly great game at the end. This one is certainly fine if you're a fan of the Seven Deadly Sins, and I mean, it was obviously going to be built always for existing fans, and it was never going to really be able to pull in new fans. But while it's decent enough while it's decent enough for fans of the anime franchise, it's not really a standout game, and even fans of the anime will probably get bored of it fairly quickly, unfortunately. It has the same sense of humour, it has the kind of the bright characters, it has some of the more ludicrous situations, and it does a decent job of reflecting the various characters and settings and replaying through the plot of the anime through the video game. It does all of that stuff okay, but the core action isn't quite there. It's just not clean enough, it's not refined enough, it's not as precise as a Koei Warriors game, and for all the flack that Koei Tecmo gets because of its series and how many Warrior games that it pushes out, it has actually developed its franchise, its key property, into a fine art, so that when it goes to take it and apply it to other anime style games such as Arslan or Gundam or whatever, it can do those games justice, I guess, relatively easily for the development team, because they've already got all the engines and the assets and all of that kind of stuff already sitting there. The developer of this one would have had to have created it all from scratch, and there are certainly weaknesses in it. So what you're seeing right here, for example, is an example of a level where you've got to take on a couple of dozen enemies and take them out. But the level only lasts a couple of seconds. It doesn't have the length of time. It doesn't have the consistency. It doesn't have the depth of a Warriors game where a battle could last 10-15 minutes easily. These ones are over so quickly, they're kind of blink and you miss affairs, and it doesn't have that sense of purpose to it as a result. Like I say in my review, which will be on digitallydownloaded.net soon enough, it almost feels like you spend more time in loading screens than you do actually fighting the battles. There is some variety, which is good to see. Like, for instance, you can take control of the deadly sin of Wrath, which is this woman. She's a giant woman, and she's pretty much unbeatable, which kind of makes the levels purposeless, except for the fact that she adds some depth in the sense that she gives you a different way to play the game, and it's interesting. It's not challenging particularly, and I don't find these levels overly interesting, but I like the fact that they've tried to put the variety in there, which is certainly a good thing. You go through and you unlock lots more other characters. I think there's about a dozen characters that are playable by the end of the game, and each one has slightly different fighting styles, which is all very Warriors-like, which is good. The other major facet of the game are these boss battles, and they're meant to be the highlight. They're also kind of the weakness, because again, like I said, the combat system isn't quite refined enough. It's a little bit too fast for what it's trying to do, so blocking and dodging don't work very well at all. You're better off kind of just taking the hit and then counter-attacking, and then whoever does that best, I guess, knocks the other side over first. It's not overly interesting. There's no strategy or skill involved. It's very button mashy, for lack of a better word. And while these are meant to be the highlights, and while you're certainly fighting characters that if you're a fan of the anime you will know and love, you're not getting that sense of excitement out of these battles. Not like you did with Berserk or Arslan, where you actually would recognize the enemy and then engage in a battle that was very authentic to what the respective animes were about. This one feels like you could be fighting any kind of license. It could be anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Seven Deadly Sins, and that's disappointing, because if you're buying this as a fan of the show, obviously you want it to feel like it's true to the show. And while the cutscenes and the characterization are there, the combat system doesn't do enough to back it up, which is really unfortunate, because I want to like the game. I'm actually a fan of the anime myself. It just left me a bit cold. There's potential there for a future one. Hopefully we see another Seven Deadly Sins tie-in game somewhere down the track, and it does a little bit more justice to the franchise, because that would be great. I'd love that. I'd love for that to happen. Anyway, thanks very much for watching the video. Short one, but had to show off some of the game to go with my review. Have a read of it at digitallydownloaded.net later on tonight. Thanks for watching, and we will see you at the next video.